Hello, everyone. It's Heather. We're together with Heather again, and this show, it's my birthday show. So my birthday is on Friday, but I figured what better way to celebrate today than bringing some of my very best friends from across the entire country and across the world together for a virtual birthday party. Many times, it gets really hard with distance. And I think that as adults, it's really important that we invest in those healthy relationships and friendships. And so I brought some of my very best friends. So we will connect with them shortly. But thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for continuously following. We're almost to 500 likes on our Facebook page. So when we get there, we'll do another giveaway. So let's start with our education corner. I think we're going to start doing this at the beginning of each conversation just so that we don't get caught up in all the other conversations and miss out on this part. So the thing I want to talk about today is scholarships. Over at NDSU, we have a cultural diversity tuition waiver, which covers anywhere from $2,000 to $8,000 a year, which is huge. And we're not the only school that has opportunities like that. But also there's different scholarships available for you. That doesn't matter where you go to school. You can be going to a community college, you could be going to a tech school, or you can go into a university. So I would really encourage you all as we enter into this break, and some of you maybe are finishing up your finals and having a little bit of a rest from the educational piece, is to start to research different scholarships. I know that right now the Cobell Scholarship is going to start to open. There's the American Indian Grad Center that has some scholarships. I can speak from experience. These are things I didn't know about when I went to school the first time. It's part of the reason why I carry the school debt that I carry. But there are a lot of opportunities out there. You just have to do a little bit of digging. And I'll tell you, some of them, you're going to have to write essays and you maybe have to get a reference. But if I could tell you that if you spent 2 to 3 hours on a scholarship application and you could earn $1,000 to $2,000, I feel like that's worth it in the long run. The tip I can give you is that in any scholarship that you fill out, any question that they ask you, make sure that you copy and paste that and save that over in a Word document or a Google Doc, because you want to be able to work smarter, not harder. At some of these, a lot of the scholarships are going to ask the same question. Why are you going into this major? What do you want to do with your degree when you're done? What kind of things have you done in your community to volunteer? So if you write a really good answer, copy and paste it and save it over in a scholarship Word document, then you can just plop that into other scholarship applications. Follow Together with Heather over on Facebook. And as new scholarship opportunities open up, we'll be sure to share them on there and then share those out, because we really want to make sure that we reduce that barrier of financial cost for students to go to school. I talk a lot about it, that it's one of the biggest reasons why people don't venture into higher education. Nobody wants to go out into the world with $40 or $60 or $100,000 worth of debt. We know that that has a really big impact on our ability to buy cars, to buy houses, when we're carrying that much debt. And so look into scholarships. Take the time to fill them out. A lot of the scholarships are opening right now. A lot of them will close in early February. So if you wait until April or May, it's most likely going to be too late for any scholarship money next year. So if there's one piece of advice I can give you today, look at those scholarships. It's free money. You don't have to pay it back. It's your investment in your future. And take the time to copy and paste those answers so that you have them for multiple applications. So that wraps up our education corner. Every week we'll talk about it. We'll provide tips and tricks to make sure that we do the very best that we can to provide you with the opportunities for lifelong education. Okay, so let's get started with the fun. I'm going to bring on some of my friends and we'll do some introductions. But as some of you know, I'm a mom and I have a lot of moving parts in my house. And so you might see another cameo from my 4-year-old because he likes to jump in and join. All of you know Elliot, and then DJ's busy making dinner right now. So that's how we roll. So let's do some introductions. I have the best friends. I know that a couple of weeks ago we met my family, but I feel like it's really important to talk about who my friends are, because these women have inspired me and empowered me at multiple different points in my life. And I just want to be able to share them all with you. So we'll start with my very best friend, Kyla. Kyla lives out in Arizona, and we've known each other since high school. We were cheerleaders
Yeah,
together in high school. And so she's going to join us today. Me and Kyla talk on a very regular, like
like
hourly, not
all the
hourly, but
time.
like multiple times a day. So we'll come back to you, Kyla, to do a little intro. And then I have my girl, Nikki. Right. Nikki's out in Cleveland. And so Nikki played a really, really valuable role in my life as I was moving into my adulthood and just kind of figuring out who I was. She was also there for me when I was in like 72 hours worth of labor
Yes.
with DJ.
Never will I forget.
Never will I forget. um, and so Nikki and I have stayed really close. And I feel like there can go a long time between our conversations, and then we pick up the phone and we talk, and it's like there was no time in between it. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, and we'll come back to you. And then my last friend and very best friend, my worldwide best friend, is Kat, and she's actually in Australia. And so Kat and I met, I would say, as adults, and we really kind of met in a really unique way, but instantly became so close and felt like family. And so we'll talk to each of them. All of us are moms, so we'll talk about the impact of having friends, and being there for supports for your kids. And then also we'll talk about what it's like, to be far away from our parents and our family too. So let's go back to Kyla. Give us a little intro, tell us something fun, whatever you want to add.
So, like Heather said, we've known each other since high school, and we probably lost touch at some point, and then kind of through social media reconnected, and kind of like no time passed, and we talk very regularly. Like she said, I'm a mom of one child. Her name's Zoe, and she's 7 almost, and we're in Arizona. My family's in South Dakota, and we're kind of down there by ourselves, but thankfully we get to chat with our friends and family often and stay in touch.
Yeah, the difference between Minnesota and Arizona is so Minnesota experiences time zone changes or like Kyla doesn't. So sometimes we're 2 hours apart and it really messes with our morning drive.
Yeah. Sometimes it works perfect and other times it just doesn't.
Yeah, like half the year it works
Yeah,
perfect. And the other half
exactly.
it doesn't. Okay, Nikki, tell us about you.
Um, so I am from Cleveland, Ohio for 20 years, but 20 years from Michigan. So I'm actually from Michigan, but I live in Cleveland. And I met Heather. She was nannying in Cleveland, and that's how we became connected, which is a whole lot of fun. But I don't have a little one, but I have a 20-year-old, and they're about the same, I think. So
You mean
I
like
really
having a
think
little
so.
one and having a 20-year-old is about the same?
Yeah, it is. It is because they think they know it. They do, they do everything, and then they come back and go, "Why?" But
Yeah.
so yeah, and yeah, I'm happy to be on the show. I love Heather. I love you, and
Yeah.
happy birthday.
Yay, happy birthday to me. Um, yeah, it's so fun because Bree was little when I met you. Like I have some pictures of us. I think she was like
Two
two
or
or
three.
three.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so being able to be kind of a part of her life too as she's transitioned through some things has been really fun. Okay, let's move over to Kat. I feel like I'm just gonna ask you a bunch of questions because I was saying it earlier, like everything that is in the Australian accent just sounds so much cooler. So tell us about you.
So my name is Catalina, or as I'm known, Kat. I live in Brisbane, Australia, and I am a mum of a beautiful 8-week-old boy, Ari. And Heather and I our story is different in how we actually met. So we both in previous relationships were doing a YouTube channel, and we actually connected, and I flew halfway across the world to surprise Heather to be there when she needed support, and I think I felt this kindred connection to her straight away. So something in my heart just said that I had to be there, and from the second that we connected face to face, it was instant family connection, and we have stayed super close and connected ever since. And any major life event, I think we've been there as best we can. This year has been particularly hard, being apart, but yeah, that's how we've connected. And we, even though our moments are fleeting because we really are on opposite schedules, you guys are actually a whole half a day behind us in time, we always manage to connect when it really counts, and I'm very, very lucky from that perspective. She's what I call an anyways friend.
See, I told you, everything that she says just sounds so much cooler. Well, and it's so funny because I think the very first thing we said to each other was, you were like, I didn't realize how tall you were. And then it was like, oh my gosh, you're here. Like in person, you showed up. It was so awesome. Okay, well, let's kind of get into the conversation. As we've kind of talked about it. We're living in a pandemic, and so virtually connecting is how a lot of us are connecting right now. But we've kind of been doing that for years, many, many years, over the phone, not being able to spend birthdays together, but really just being able to be a support. So let's talk about a time or a story or something along those lines that we've had to connect for really important things in our lives, virtually or at a distance. I'm going to start with Kat, because it's the most recent thing. Well, actually, there's other most recent things, but one of the things that stands out to me with you the most is that I was able to be a part of your baby shower just recently because it was virtual.
Yeah.
But also I was a guest at your wedding. Like I had to get up in the middle of the night, get dressed, like put my hair semi together, because again, we're on opposite sides of the world. And then one of your friends held the phone with my face on it, like I was at your wedding.
You were front row, front and center.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, for me, having Heather there, whatever which way that I could get her there, was so important. We did a surprise wedding. We decided that we just wanted to keep it small and simple, and no frills. And one of my key things was having Heather there. So I made sure that the iPad was ready to go, and the front row, like front seat right in front of me, was reserved. And we teed it all up, and I just said, you need to hold it. And having her there, I remember looking numerous times while I was saying my vows and things, and just knowing that she was there I was really, really lucky. It's one of those things that I think I've learned, that distance is no measure of family. And you have your chosen family, and then your family by birth. And I talk about my village of people a lot, and Heather is one of my key villagers. She's someone who I hold very dear in my heart, and having her there on that day to witness me get married, and to know that she could be there as close as she could possibly get, was amazing, and really, really special. So I think we've come so far in the ways in which we can connect in technology, and this year in particular has been a true measure of that.
Because I think it's important that we find ways to celebrate really important times together. I think that this is not just like a pandemic theory. I think that we've all talked about how hard it is to make new friends as an adult. Like we spend most of our time at work or doing things that it's really hard to like invest in meeting people and like giving this whole energy to a friendship. And so it's really important to maintain these things. And so if it means I'm on a phone in the front row of your wedding, that's how we do it. So I'm gonna roll over, and it was really fun because we were playing a game. Kat, do you remember you were like making us find things, and I was in the car like that had a letter, and I'm like, I don't know, an R, I don't know, a receipt.
Yeah.
Everybody else had these
Yeah,
really
and it
cool
was
things.
so memorable, and everybody loved it, and we had connections from all over the world. So I had the US, we had people in Geneva, and it was wonderful because being pregnant in a pandemic as a first time mom was one of the hardest things that I've ever done, because you're so disconnected, and it's one of these things that you want to be so connected with the people in your village. And it was great to have you all there, and playing games and thinking on the fly is one thing that I think this year has taught me. Anything is about how to just use the resources at your disposal to really connect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, well, I love you. Thank you for coming.
No worries.
It means so much. So, talking about pregnancies and being like needing your village and being away from people. When I was pregnant with DJ, Nikki was my very best friend and really, like, I would say my only like true family member. I remember just like thinking all of these crazy things like what is going on in pregnancy, and because she is a mom, I could really relate to her. But Nikki, tell us a little bit about your experience dealing with my pregnancy.
It was great. No, it was awesome. And knowing Heather when she was pregnant was awesome. No, so so we'll talk about like the actual labor and communicating with her family and trying to be there for Heather was this was before you could FaceTime, and things like that. So it was we were I just tried to be as supportive as I could with her, and then trying to communicate on the phone with her mother, and like she said, 72 hours. It might have been longer than that. I don't know. It felt like 5 weeks, but it
Yeah,
was quite an experience. Days of walking and bouncing and all of that. But I would never trade that for the world. It's actually one of my favorite memories was that experience, and just loving someone through labor, as we know, can be a very trying thing. If you can love someone 72 hours straight, and she was not very happy at that in those moments. So I think it just made our friendship stronger, and it was quite an experience.
Yeah, well, and part of that too was you did play such a role at helping to communicate with my mom. And I mean, I can just imagine like, my mom was 18 hours away as I was having my first child. And Nikki was really the lifeline to communicate. Like, I even remember after 24 hours, my mom called you and was like, "Did you forget to call me and tell me that the baby was born?" And we're like, "Nope."
No, baby. And then probably 60 hours was her mom calling and saying, "You better tell those doctors." And I said, "Yes, ma'am. I'm going to go tell those doctors that right now."
Yeah.
Yes. So.
But the funnier part is that you stayed through the whole entire thing, and then when you had class,
I
the
had a
one
final. I had a final exam to take,
the
and
only
they're
time
getting ready to take her back because it was a C-section.
Yeah.
After 71 hours, so
Yeah.
poor thing then has to go to C-section, and I have to go take my exam. They wouldn't let me reschedule it, so precious DJ was born without me being there.
I know, you should have taken the exam 2 days earlier. Maybe that was the thing.
Right.
But yeah, the nice thing too, that I really appreciate about our friendship is that I come out there, maybe once a year, and no matter what, I feel like you just adjust your schedule, and I hang out in the barber shop with you at work, and Yeah, you
wherever.
pick me up and we just do whatever. So yeah, I really appreciate you. You're always hilarious. Like your snaps are the best. But all right, let's move over to Kyla because I would say Kyla is really like a sister to me. I think we have talked through the really exciting times in life, but also a lot of really difficult, hard things in my life. I lost my dad over a decade ago. It's crazy that it's been almost 12 years ago. And both Nikki and Kyla are always shoulders that I can lean on. There's a lot of times that I'm really honest with Kyla and she's really honest back. And I think that's what I'm talking about when investing in long-term, long distance, like friendships is that accountability piece and being able to really be vulnerable. So yeah, Kyla, just talk a little bit about like our relationship from your capacity and that you're not really around family. I'm not really around family and how like that just makes us almost family to each other.
Yeah, well, I think we are able to connect on a lot of things because of that. But, even at a distance, I've become a pro at putting together a party in the box. So,
Yes.
I couldn't be there for her baby shower, but sent this little party in a box and we repeated it for graduation. And it is a bummer to kind of miss some of those bigger experiences, but we still get to share it because we do chat quite often. But like you said, I mean, it is kind of about being there. It's not always going to be perfect and fun and fabulous and rainbows. And, that's just life and reality, and kind of sticking through those times, I think, just brings us closer too.
Yeah, you do throw a really good party in a box. Like, if there's one piece of advice we can give you, if your best friend or family member lives far away,
Yes, do a party in the box.
yes, like I even remember with my baby shower, you sent sharpened pencils for like, I mean, like for everything. Like you thought about everything and you connected with people from here. And so it's little things like that that really, I think that we don't always have to be in the exact same space to know that we love and care about each other. Because we can do things through actions and be really creative in distance, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, and just being those people to call, like, if you need help or you need something, that whether you can actually help or not, you're there for that phone call.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was even times that like I remember breaking a key in my entry, like into my apartment. Okay, and remember y'all, like Kyla lives in Arizona and I was living in South Dakota. And the very first person I called to help me was Kyla. Like it's clearly not
Like,
trusting it.
I don't know what to do for you, but I'll be here with you through this.
Yeah. So for both of you, Nikki and Kyla, so this election season was very weird for me. I had to do it completely virtual. And the biggest part that was hard is the fact that I had to do like a virtual election night party. And Kyla and Nikki were both able to join me. And I don't know if I've ever really said, how much having y'all there to share in that moment with me. I think Kat had just had her baby, or like we were dealing with like super newborn, and again, opposite sides of the world. So you get a pass. But thank you so much for like taking the time and building the energy around that too. Like I remember we were just sitting there watching the numbers, like, what do we do? And I was so nervous, and you all just made it just so much more comforting. So I appreciate you for that. But I want to transition a little bit and let's talk about being away from our parents. Not only is that something that, is a lot on us, but what do you do to keep those relationships with your kids and your parents? Not all of us have grandparents that just live down the street. I know for me, it's really emotional for my mom not to be able to be at just everything for my kids, and to have to pick and choose, what events or what things are most important. I've been trying to convince my mom, if you're watching, we're all trying to convince you to just move to Moorhead. But I want you all just to talk real candidly about, the hardships of you as an individual being away from your parents. Nikki, you can go first.
Uh, so with me, I'm very, very, very close with my parents, particularly my father, who right now is going through the early stages of dementia. So I'm 3 hours away from them, so I can get in the car. I've always said I have to be close, far enough where they can't drive by, but close enough where I can get in the car and get there in a reasonable amount of time. And now in this stage of my life, I'm actually considering moving closer. So I think it's just I talk to my father every morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, between 6 and 7. I talk to my mom however many times she wants to talk to me a day, which can be 1 to 10, maybe 15 if it's a bad day. But I think this learning that, as we transition in our lives and our parents become older, we have to shift our body and let them lean a little bit more where we used to lean. And I think just being open to that and understanding that right now my parents are 80 and I'm 43. So um, I get to be more supportive. I try to limit I used to get on the phone when the littlest thing was stressing me out. And I'd call my mom and I'd, blah, 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 complain. And now I really have to think like, okay, is this going to cause stress to them? Like, do I really need to worry her with this or that? So um I'm adjusting right now, but I've always maintained a healthy relationship between my daughter and my parents. You have to call your grandparents. When you go there, it isn't all about you now. Like, you need to
Mhm.
clean up after yourself. You're not a bit, so we try to visit. And I mean, I'm surprised she hasn't called in tonight, but that being said, she'll probably call any second. But just keeping the communication, because as hard as it is for us, it's 20 times harder for them.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. And it's one thing that I've known about you, like always, is that, you just really care so much about your parents that, if they need anything, you just pick up and head home, which is nice. Cause I'm 3 hours away from my mom too. And so again, that you can't just roll up at my house, but it's not so far away. So, but Kyla, it's different for you. I mean, you're like states away, like it's an all day drive or a flight. And so, and your family has a whole ranch. And so they just can't get up and leave and come and spend days. I mean, it's hard for them to come visit you. So just tell us kind of how you work through that and what are some things you and your family do.
Yeah, we are in Arizona, and neither my husband or I have family that are close. His family's in Missouri, and all of my family's in South Dakota for the most part. And yeah, so I mean, we just really focus on making those phone calls, and we use our commute time because we have a lot of commute time. um, and we use that time to connect with everybody. And we're very rarely in the car when we're not on the phone with my mom and dad or my sister, or you or someone else. That's when we really utilize our time. So just making those phone calls, we make it a point to FaceTime. We share a lot of pictures on Facebook because that's how we keep our family connected with what we're doing without having to necessarily call everybody and fill them in.
Mhm.
Um, so really kind of utilizing social media too to keep everyone in our loop of what's going on and what's new, and sharing that way. But there will be times where, yeah, we might make that phone call home and it's just a quick phone call, or 30 minutes later I'm asking Zoe if I can talk to my parents too.
Yeah.
It is cute. And I love that they have that connection because she does love to spend time with, grandparents and great grandparents. And, it's just, they do have like a really special relationship. And it does get really hard. Especially when you have family members that might be having health issues or, it's odd because COVID didn't really affect us too much because we're down there by ourselves anyways. So, um, you know, it hasn't hampered much because we still keep connecting online and through the phone, and that's what we do.
Yeah. Thank goodness for long commutes.
I know.
I mean, we're on the phone for like close to an hour. So let's kind of transition to our kids. And Kat, I want you to talk a little bit about, so like your distance is one thing, but you went through a really life-changing event, in a pandemic. And so like you had to have that distance with your parents for health. I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic. So talk a little bit about what that was like for you as you were like preparing to be a mom, but distance away from your family.
Um, yeah, it was really unexpected because I fell pregnant, and my parents were actually due to come up. So we are 3 states away from my parents. So it's either a 14-hour drive or a flight. And they were due to fly up to see me, and we were going to announce that we were pregnant. And it was at the start of the pandemic, and so they decided not to come. And so we ended up having to tell them over FaceTime. And I actually coordinated so I could read them being told. And they had no idea that they were even trying for a kid. So it was quite a shock for them anyway. And then it was their immediate, you're pregnant and I can't see you. And if something happens medically, I can't get to you. And so I
You're kind of glitchy. It must be that Australian internet. We're going to blame it on that. But when she comes back on, we'll kind of finish because I do know it was one of the things that we talked about a lot was that, as new moms, you want to share in that excitement with your family. And when you're at a distance and you can't do that, I think it really changes your life. It changes the way, that you remember that time frame and what was supposed to be so happy. And so I have a special guest because I can't have my birthday party without this kid. Say hi.
Hello.
You see everybody?
Yeah.
Nikki, right? He's like a grown man. But so we are talking about how we keep relationships with our kids and our parents. So DJ, you're growing up away from Unchi, and we don't get to see her all the time. So what are some fun things that you and Unchi have implemented to be able to stay connected even though there's a distance?
Well, sometimes Unchi, I FaceTime her. Sometimes it's not the easiest because she's like confused with all the technology and stuff, but we get through it. And we have a group chat with me, Unchi, and Mom, and sometimes we just send like old pictures that she finds of me or of us and send riddles, so we all still have fun when we're not with her in person. So
we just did a big, what would you call it? Like a riddle puzzle?
like a word riddle, yeah.
Yeah, it was 30 some different little word riddles that we shared and we like worked on it together. But one of the things that DJ's done is you've gone down there for like a week at a time. Because we're pretty isolated. But we also have to remember that like the mental health of our kids are really important right now. And DJ has really just been stuck in the house quite a bit for months. And so recently we decided that he was on a pause for his athletics. So talk about how you've gone down there and you just do all your work down at their house for a while.
So yeah, it's easy to travel with online school and like distance learning and everything. So it's nice. I can just go up to Sioux Falls and just stay with her and Dave and just clear my mind, just not in the same bedroom for a little bit, just spending time with her. I practice driving down there and it's fun. It's being able to get away.
Yeah. So when Nikki was talking about the 72 hours of labor, this is the this is the outcome of that. So if that tells you like how long Nikki's been a huge part of our life, I mean, this is the stuff that matters. And I know that we've sent school pictures and stuff to Kat, and Kyla knows DJ. DJ tried to give away Kyla's dog.
No.
It's why you don't have a dog right now, DJ.
That was funny. Do you remember that story?
Yeah, it was. I think I was walking him, and then I just dropped him off at the neighbor's house. I think just so they could watch him when I came back.
Well,
That's what I remember.
I think you were having a little bit of a difficult time walking him.
He like ran away, kind of.
Remember, Kyla? We were like, wait.
He came back without the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It all worked out. It all worked out okay.
Yeah. Nikki, what do you have to say to DJ?
First of all, the voice, you're so grown up. But I actually just found a picture of him I was on a closet cleaning spree, and I'm embarrassed. I'd show you my living room, but it's got stuff that now I need to find a home for. But I had found a picture of him when he was a baby, just recently. But yeah, wow, you're a big kid now.
Yeah.
We're not going to stand up. We won't stand up.
Don't stand up. Please don't.
And-
I'm already tearing up because your voice and you're grown and you're awesome.
Yeah.
Proud of you guys.
So DJ, talk a little bit about, so your dad lives in Cleveland. How do you stay connected with him? What are some things that you do to make sure that you stay connected with your dad and your other siblings?
Well, I text all of them a lot. We all have like common interests, so like sometimes like I'll send like a video to my dad and he'll reply back and he'll send like a basketball like video or something. And sometimes I just call him and we just have just conversations, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then my siblings, we all are friends on social media, so that's how we stay in contact and stay up to date. So it's nice.
And you go out there for?
Yeah, I go out there. I wasn't able to go out this summer, but I've been going out there for the past couple of years up to Cleveland. So yeah.
Is it up? Is it over?
Sideways to Cleveland.
Is it? Kind of this way. Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for joining. Mm-hmm. You know, it's my birthday on Friday.
Yeah.
Do you know what you're getting?
I already got you a present. Yeah.
What is it?
I'm telling you.
Oh man, I thought it was gonna work. Okay.
Bye.
That's my kid. If we want to talk about like long distance and the importance of maintaining long distance friendships, family ships, he really feels that a lot, and I think that it's our responsibility as moms to do our best to be creative in how they can do that. And so that's kind of where like those little trivia things come in play. Cause it gets really old to just be like, how was your day? Learning from my bedroom. Like, you know, right now things are just like Groundhog's Day. Okay, let's go back to Kat because we were teasing you about your Australian internet because you were kind of breaking up. But finish your story if you can. I don't know, you might still be kind of fuzzy, but just about your experience and not being able to share that with your mom and your family.
Yeah, it is really crappy internet down here, so I do apologize, guys. The land down under really is behind the times with the internet. Um, so yeah, they weren't able. The first time my parents laid eyes on me, I was almost 7 months pregnant. So I'd gone from being this kid, their baby that they'd always known and seen, to this 7 month pregnant woman who had to go through the experiences of morning sickness and going to ultrasounds alone. So thank goodness for technology. My all the rites of passage, your baby shower and everything, it's all done virtually. And not being able to be in close contact with my parents, and my sister was 14 weeks ahead of me in her pregnancy. So our babies are 14 weeks apart, and being pregnant and not being able to be with my sister and have those moments of having a pregnancy photo together and things were really hard. And so for us, we made time and cut time out every single day to ensure that we chatted. And my sister has a 2-year-old as well. And so we used to make sure that once a week I had carved out an hour of my time to have a lunch date with my niece. So she knew who I was, and it was just like me being there. Because we are apart, generally I'm much the same as Kyla, and just, we have to work with what we got. And we stay connected virtually and talk a lot. And now, we've got a family chat and we share photos and videos all the time. But it's really hard. And even now, there's lots of family and friends that we're yet to meet. So, yeah, my advice is definitely carve out that time. And we don't have long commutes like you guys do in the US, but I've made sure to really carve out the time, and I make time in the morning. And Heather and I, my 2021, carve out some specific time, even though we're on opposite ends of the world, to make sure that we're actually seeing each other more, even though we text a lot. Yeah, you've just got to make it happen.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, it's a lot of it is about the intentionality of it. Like, I feel like when me and you connect, it more just like happens to be a good time to connect rather than like really setting time. Okay, you are so cute. Put him over in the screen a little bit more. Go this way. Yes, Ari.
He
Hi,
can hear
sweet
your voice, so
boy.
he's trying to look for it.
Look at that baby.
Who's talking to you? Talking to you.
Oh my gosh. Yes. See, first interview. Ari, tell us about your life in Australia.
See?
Yeah.
Say
He's
it's
so
hot
cute.
and muggy.
Oh my gosh, you guys in your hot
See?
conversations. If it's
Give
not
him a
Kat, it's
smile.
Kyla talking about how hot it is. So, all right, we're about 15 minutes away from
It
wrapping
is.
up. But let's talk a little bit more about, the things that we miss out on, because that's a reality when we're distant, and we can do the best by sending, parties in a box and doing things virtually. But there is a really emotional part. And I'll just speak real candidly, one of the hardest things for me is, so Nikki, often, I wouldn't say all the time, but semi-regularly, has really difficult times for medical reasons. And as a friend, as a best friend who would have dropped everything to be at the hospital or to help clean the house or cook a meal, that for me it's heart-wrenching, when you miss things that it's not just the fun and exciting things that are hard to miss. It's those pieces when we know that our friends just really need a friend. Um, and so Nikki, just tell us, what can we do? Like, I don't know that I've ever really asked you. Like, sometimes it's just a text is just so much, but like when you're in those situations and things aren't well with you, like what is something that I can do as a friend from a distance to be there for you during those times?
Obviously, I've adjusted to not having anyone here. I have a sister that lives here, but isn't always around as much as maybe I'd like her to be. But to me, I when I'm in those situations, I'm a very prayerful person. Like I love the Lord, and I lean on Him um, on behalf of myself. But I always, it means so much when I get a text or, because in those kinds of situations you don't feel well. I don't, you don't necessarily need to have people surrounding you all the time, but just knowing that people are there for you and people are either thinking happy thoughts for you or feeding your cat or or just knowing that if I want to cry for a second, I can pick up the phone and I can call and give me like that, 2 minute cry session. And then I know that the person on the other end would be there if they could. But I think just letting people know that even if you're not there in the present, that that you're there emotionally and, spiritually and, however it is that you connect with that person.
Mm-hmm. That is so important. I think, too, I think that for me in really emotional times, like we'll call and we'll talk and we'll be like in our emotions, and then it never fails that we're laughing by the end of the conversation. And like laughter is just so important. And so, but please, I think I want you to know, and I would say to everybody, you have to be honest about what you need in situations in your life, because it's really hard for your friends who are face to face to know what you need. It's even harder for your friends and your family from a distance to know, because we're only getting like small glimpses of what's happening in your life. And so I just would say be really honest about what you need. And if they're your very best friends, like this core group of women that I have on this screen right now, I know that I could be really vulnerable and honest and say if there's something I need. And it wouldn't put a burden on anybody. So that advice is to you, Nikki. Be honest and what you need, even if it's like, I feel like nowadays we're getting these really cool like food delivery, options and stuff. So I know that you're a strong, independent woman and we don't want to mess with you, but like reach out to your friends if you need it. Okay.
You got it.
You got it. All right, Kyla. I feel like Kyla is genuinely probably part of the reason that I only have to see my therapist half of the time that I do. But also I would say me and you have talked a lot about that, like really good friendship and healthy friendship is that we spend time listening to each other. That it's, some conversations are really about me, some conversations are really about you, but at the end of the day, it's really this balance of us being invested in each other. What's some advice or some suggestions that you would give when it comes to having that healthy balance and sharing, the things of your life with others?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there are definitely those conversations where, we might just get 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. And at the end of that conversation, it's like, wow, I did not let you even speak. How are you
Yeah.
doing? But sometimes you just need that time to just get it all out and, or we pick up the conversation later or we completely forgot where we even were with it. But I think it just kind of comes down to like keeping that contact open, whether it's, via the phone call or the text or a quick Snapchat or whatever it might be. Is, just being available to your friends whether they need you or not, I think that's important.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important too, like, we kind of were talking about it a little bit earlier, but it's that accountability piece. I think it's something in friendship that's so valuable. It's that being able to have, like, you don't want somebody who just thinks you're doing life perfect all the time. You know, I mean, you need good friends that are going to tell you, like, are you sure you thought about it this way? Are you sure you know, like you said this 2 weeks
Right.
ago, now all of a sudden you're saying this. Like, I feel like Kyla,
And
you
it
really,
is about kind of like, yeah, being that accountability to say, you know, not just always agreeing with someone, because that's not necessarily what they always need. Sometimes you need that other perspective or someone to kind of be the devil's advocate and bring in another side of the situation, and, you know, for whatever it might be.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you're the best.
You're the best.
I feel like we keep talking about spending time together, and then we're in a pandemic or grad school or something or an
I
election.
know something comes up, life comes up, but
Yeah. But
that's
I think
life.
kind of back to what like Kat said, like it's really about being extremely intentional. You know, for distant stuff, like the conversations are there, but it's really about being like extremely intentional. So Kat, our communication is a little bit different because there's times that like she'll ask me a question and then like 8 hours later I'll respond. And then 8 hours later she'll respond. And so it's a little bit different to engage when there's that much of a time difference. But for any of our listeners out there, any of you who have family or friends that are international, that you have that gap, other than being intentional to, you know, to set virtual time together, which I love that. I'm going to be better at that. But Kat, what are some other suggestions or advice that you can give on that international piece?
Look, I think I would echo the sentiments that you've talked about already, because I always try and be mindful of what I'm trying to say. So, and not afraid to say it either. So, there have been times in both of our lives where we've had life changing events or moments. And even though we're not able to connect right then in real time, I'm able to share my thoughts and feelings with you. And I always try to be honest. And I think honest and truthful is so important and so vital to our relationship. I'm able to say to you, I'm going through a really hard time right now and I'm not in a great headspace,
Mm-hmm.
and things aren't working out the way that I expected them to. Or I'm feeling this way and what do you think? But I always approach the conversation as if we're having it in real time. And even though it may take you or I several hours to respond, I think the feeling and the emotion is still just as important. So I approach it as if you're sitting in front of me and that we're having this conversation over a cup of coffee, or you know, you're 2 minutes down the road from me. That's always how I've approached our relationship, and I always try to make sure that you know that I'm always there, and I think you do the same. And it's one of the things that I really love in our relationship. Even though we don't talk every day, when we do talk, it's like we've spoken every day for several hours. So I feel really lucky that that's the basis of our relationship. We always make sure that we send each other love and light, I think is how I would always preface it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have the best of intentions, even though our execution isn't always great.
Yeah. I feel like me and you are more of that pen pal space, you know, where it's like you send the message and then it takes a while to get there. It's like we're virtual, real life pen pals. But we're gonna wrap up. But I love all of you. I appreciate all of you. I'm so glad that you were able to come. You know, I'm not obviously having like a birthday party this year, but just being able to share in this conversation and share tips and tricks about what we do to manage our long distance friendships, but also with our parents, and different things like that, and with our kids. And so, thank you all for coming. I want to move quickly to just one last thing. If you want to put the ladies aside for a minute and bring Robert on. So for my birthday, a lot of you know that I have always been an activist. You know, prior to running and being elected to the Minnesota House, I talk with great pride about my work as being a grassroots organizer, about really speaking up for things that matter. And so I really want to ask all of you to learn more about Line 3. I'm not going to tell you what position I want you to take on it, but I want you to genuinely research it and learn and know, the hardships that it's putting on Mother Earth and the communities in this space. And so Robert Pilot from Native Roots Radio is here with me just for these last 3 minutes, because I want to talk about Line 3 real quick. We were out there this last Sunday with other legislators talking about the importance of learning and hearing from our community. And so, Robert, thank you for being here. Thank you always for the opportunity for me to be on Native Roots Radio. But you just want to give a real quick recap of kind of what we did this weekend, and then also where more people can learn about Line 3.
Well, I think we should have Oglema jump on too, because today she did a great synopsis of this. I know the Line 3. I just wanted to come on and wish you a happy birthday, and I saw you going on. Is it okay if we have Oglema jump on, because
yeah, of course.
Today she did an awesome job about
the three of us.
She did an awesome job bringing it up. I interviewed Oglema today on Pilots Progressive Party and asked her about her new job and with Native Roots Radio and how that came about. And then she gave a report on Line 3. So, Emma, you look as tired as me. What? Well, no, I meant that in a good way. Sorry. Do you mind giving a report? Because Bobby P is tired.
Sure. I'll do the best I can to repeat what I said on air today. I don't think I'm quite as on fire now as I was this afternoon when I did that, but I'll give it a go. So Line 3 is a tar sands oil pipeline that is running from the west to the east side of Minnesota in the northern half. It is being constructed by a Canadian company called Enbridge Energy. So what they're doing with this tar sand pipeline is they are extracting tar sands oil from Canada and using the pipeline to ship it through Minnesota to a port on the edge of Lake Superior. This oil tar sands pipeline will cross underneath the Mississippi River twice, and it will go through several hundred watersheds in Minnesota. Currently, there's legal action in appeals from the White Earth Nation and the Red Lake Nation about whether or not this pipeline is legal, because they believe that it impedes on their inherent treaty rights to endanger their manoomin or wild rice, as well as their fishing in the area. Enbridge was given the go-ahead by Governor Walz in late November to start construction on the pipeline, which they did. And despite appealing to, I forget the agency, but there was an independent appeal done that was also denied by a panel of 4. So basically what's happening, from what I understand, is Enbridge is rapidly doing their best to try to construct this pipeline before the appeals decision is set to be made sometime in July of 2021. Mm-hmm. So this pipeline is going through public lands on Minnesota. So these are lands that belong to everybody that have now been handed over to a Canadian corporation that is basically desecrating them and taking it over to pump oil through Minnesota that Minnesota will not see any funds from. It's a really intense situation there. And it is, I agree entirely with Heather. I think everybody should educate themselves on what's happening there and what Line 3 really is. And decide your position once you know what really is at stake.
Mm-hmm. So I really want to encourage people. A lot of people are like, well, what do you want for your birthday? That's kind of seems to be the question. And this is what I want. I want people to learn more. Ogama, if you can put up the website stopline3.org so people can learn more. Part of it is it's all of our responsibilities to be advocates for Mother Earth. It's our responsibility to pass her down to the next generations better than we found her. And I truly believe that. But there's more than just showing up. If you're at a distance away, there's things that you can do to support. We have different people from different communities that travel out there on a fairly regular basis. I know that they're in need of firewood, food, toilet paper. The last I heard, they were okay with water, like bottled water, but also just teas and coffees and hand warmers. And I mean, if you think about it, they're outside all the time. And so anything that you can do to help. So for my birthday, if you're wondering what you can get me, educate yourself. Educate yourself on this, and educate the responsibility that we have to treaties in our sovereign nations, and make sure that wherever you are, whether you're in Arizona or Cleveland or Australia or anywhere on this nation and in this world, there's things like this that are happening near you. Just don't be oblivious to it, because it's going to impact us all. So thank you, Robert, for jumping on. Ogama, if you want to, go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to get in on the singing of Happy Birthday to you before we end the show. That's why I came on. You have a great show again and great friends, and I love your spirit, and you can really tell your spirit through your friends, and you have some great friends. So I just wanted to jump on. Wendy and I were watching the show, and I just wanted to get in on everyone singing Happy Birthday to you.
Were you and Wendy drinking tea out of the tea mugs I gave you?
No, but they're set up in the studio. So if you have watched the show the last 2 days, it was right there in front of the camera.
Okay. Total busted myself. All right, let's bring everybody back on and wrap up quick. And then we will sign off. So we got Kat. Did everybody else leave? Did everybody leave the party?
No, Ogama and I are fighting on getting people on. We're clicking the same button. All right. Well, I have perfect pitch, so should we sing it in English first? Happy birthday.
Where did Wendy go?
Everyone unmute your mics and sing along. Right.
I think maybe when we go off live, can we sing when we're off live? Can we do it that way?
Oh man, that's not a birthday party.
Somebody can't sing, huh? It sounds like somebody can't sing. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Heather.
Happy birthday to you.
Yes. Yay.
Happy birthday.
Thank you all for being here. As always, I appreciate all of you. Sign on next week on Wednesday night, 7:30 to 8:30 with Together for Heather on Native Roots Radio. We're going to have some conversations that you do not want to miss out on. Coming up in the next couple weeks, one of the topics is going to be talking about the foster care system and ICWA. And we're going to talk to families that have really done a lot of work in this system. I was a foster mom. I'm still licensed to be a foster mom. And we'll talk a lot about that. We'll talk about the lifelong impact and why we need more of our Indigenous babies living with Indigenous families. So until next time, stay safe, wear a mask, and just be kind to one another. We'll talk to you later. Bye.